My name is Ann Thomas, and I'm 32. If you ask my mother, she'll say the old house lucked into me. But if you've ever stepped inside a place that remembers your footsteps, you know better. Some houses choose their people. My grandfather built this estate in the late 1960s, right after the winter that cracked the lake into glittering blue panes. 15 acres of stubborn beauty, a Victorian home with stained glass, like patient eyes, a walled rose garden that bleeds into orchards, and a small lake that wears the seasons like jewelry. It's not sleek or sparse or Instagram ready. It has creaks and a temper and a smell like lemon oil and rain. It has stories. I learned them at my grandmother's elbow. Winters, she'd stir soup and talk about the trolley that used to rattle past the south fence. Summers, I'd follow Grandpa into the garden, me with a child's shovel, him with a knotted back and a smile that could bend the weather. He taught me which roses thrive on neglect and which ones sulk unless you talk to them. I talked to all of them. My sister Emily never liked the estate. She's 2 years older, with a talent for saying ugh in a way that cancels entire rooms. For years she called this place the museum, as if it charged admission to her patients. At holidays she'd stand in the foyer, wrinkling her nose. It smells like lace, she'd say, which I think was her way of complaining that time lives here. When our grandparents passed, 2 years apart, 2 funerals that broke the same heart twice, their will divided their legacy. I inherited the estate. Emily received their investment portfolio, substantial enough to make accountants sigh happily. The will said what Grandpa always said. I was the one who would keep the place alive. Emily said what Emily always said. Congrats on your money pit. I wasn't insulted, I was busy. For the last 3 years, I've restored the estate room by room like the house was a patient, and I'd finally gotten my medical license. New plumbing, updated electrical, hardwood floors scraped back to their honeyed first language. I didn't rip out the character. I translated it, preserved it, taught it to breathe in 2025. I turned part of the property into a small event venue, tiny weddings, piano recitals, a writer's retreat that ended with 5 unpublished chapters, and 1 engagement ring. The venue covers part of the maintenance, and the house covers my solitude. We take care of each other. Noah, my boyfriend, calls it guardian love. He says it when he catches me whispering to the stair rail as if it's a cat. Noah is measured in every way. Calm voice, neat notes, shoulders you could lean an apology against. He wasn't here when the house chose me, but he respects that it did. He respects that I am not a cool loft person. I am a stained glass afternoon person. Sometimes I catch a faint tension in him when family comes up. His past is its own quiet bruise, but he never tries to steer me away from mine. And then Emily got engaged to James. James is charming in the way of men who apologize for other people's rudeness. He shakes hands twice, listens like it's a sport, and makes my parents feel 20 again. When he proposed, 2 years into dating, my mother called within minutes, voice bright like cutlery. Your sister's wedding, she said, needs a venue with gravitas. Gravitas, what a pretty word for free. I should have known what was coming when Emily started saying charming instead of dated, historic instead of stuffy, and my personal favorite, family instead of yours. The estate she mocked for a decade blossomed into a picturesque wedding wonderland the second her left hand caught a diamond. The ambush arrived on a Tuesday, 11:07 a.m., during a remote site call where I'd just promised a September bride we wouldn't move a single antique without permission. The doorbell pecked at the house like a woodpecker with a grudge. Before I could cross the foyer, the bell chimed again, impatient, like a text with a heartbeat. I opened the door to a procession. Emily, my parents, and a woman with a leather folder and posture you could balance a cup on. Wedding planner, Emily announced, breezing past me. The planner nodded, already sweeping the room with the calculating gaze of someone who thinks square footage is a personality trait. Hello to you too, I said, still on my headset. I'm on a call. It'll only take a minute, my mother chirped, which in my family means we've already decided. My father clapped my shoulder, the way fathers do when they are about to volunteer you for something expensive. The planner unrolled a tape measure like a sword. We'll do the ceremony in the garden, she said. Reception inside. Dance floor here. She was pointing at my grandmother's writing desk, the one I had spent 3 winter evenings restoring with cotton swabs and turpentine. Absolutely not, I said, softer than the alarm ringing in my chest. That's an heirloom. Emily was already in the dining room, gesturing as if conducting an orchestra no one else could hear. We'll need to remove some of this clutter. She spared the antique dining table a look of pity that made my skin prickle. And the wallpaper? It photographs old. It is old, I said, hand-painted, which is why it stays. The planner tapped a wall with a knuckle, testing sound like a doctor checking a lung. This is load-bearing? She asked, almost hopeful. It is, I said. Could we open just a pass-through? No, my headset crackled. Anne, you still with us? Yes, I told the bride on the line, eyes on the planner. Give me 5 minutes. I muted my mic, then turned back to the invasion in progress. Emily, I said, what's going on? She blinked as if I'd interrupted her in her house. James and I are finalizing the layout, obviously. Obviously, I repeated, tasting the word like a bitter herb. No one asked me if this was okay. My mother's smile was the soft kind that stains. Darling, it's family. It's my property, I said, calm, but my hands remembered the weight of Grandpa's shovel. And I run an event venue with contracts. People book and pay months in advance. Emily laughed, a high, brittle sound. You're not actually going to charge me. I looked at the planner, who had begun measuring the living room windows like a realtor flirting with disaster. We're done measuring, I told her. The planner lowered her tape, professional smile cracking just a hair. Of course. My father cleared his throat, reaching for his reasonable voice. Sweetheart. No, I said, not like this. Emily's face hardened, the way porcelain looks right before a fall. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me concerning this house? I asked. I meant it neutrally. It came out curved. Silence gathered. The house listened. Anne, my mother tried again. Be gracious. The garden will need some work. The garden has been my work, I said, for 3 years. Emily's phone buzzed. She skimmed it and smirked. Our photographer says the rose arch will need a more modern entrance for symmetry. We'll replace the old trellis. Temporarily. Grandpa's trellis. The one he built the summer my baby teeth fell out. The one he stained with a tiny paintbrush, because beauty hides in corners. For a second I saw the future, a rented arch squatting like a plastic crown where his hands had shaped the wood. I heard myself say, very softly, no. Something in the room shifted. The planner's pencil stopped moving. My father looked at the floor. My mother began to gather her purse like it was a parachute. Emily moved closer, eyes wide with disbelief that I was not bending. You would really nickel and dime your own sister on her wedding? I would protect the house I was trusted with, I said, and treat you like every other client, with a family discount, a contract, and limits. Limits, she repeated, as if she'd never met the word. My headset blinked. The September bride had hung up. The only beating in my ears now was the house, old pipes, old heart. I'm asking you all to leave, I said finally. We can discuss this properly, but you don't get to arrive with a planner and a vision board and a measuring tape and call it grace. You ask. Then we see if the answer is yes. Emily's eyes glossed. My mother didn't meet my gaze. My father muttered, family obligations, which I think he believes are vows. The planner, to her credit, gathered her tools wordlessly. We'll be in touch, she said, and somehow made it sound like a threat wrapped in satin. At the door, Emily turned back, mouth trembling between plea and verdict. For a heartbeat, I expected her to say, please. She said nothing. She left. The house exhaled. I didn't. Noah texted, how's the morning? Do you need me to come by? I stared at the screen, at the reflection of the stained glass in the glass of my phone, at the woman holding her ground in both. I'm okay, I wrote, but something started. He replied, then we end it right. I'm with you. As I slid the deadbolt, I whispered to the banister, a habit I never admit to anyone but him. I won't let them take you apart. From somewhere deep, the pipes, the floors, the places that carry footsteps, the house seemed to murmur back the only blessing I needed. Hold. The house stayed silent for 3 days after that ambush. No footsteps, no phone calls. No, Anne, be reasonable. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the low groan of the pipes, like it was holding its breath alongside me. But peace never lasts long when guilt runs in the family. On the 4th morning, my phone lit up with a message from Emily. Coffee? Let's talk about the wedding. No apology, no question mark after wedding. Just the assumption that my no was really a not yet. I agreed. I needed closure, or at least clarity. We met at a downtown cafe where she was already waiting, tapping her manicured nails against a magazine like a metronome. Her engagement ring caught the sunlight and threw it in my eyes. I took that as a metaphor. Anne, she started, I think we got off on the wrong foot. You mean the foot that tried to step through my front door with a measuring tape? She smiled, that half tilt she uses when she's trying to pretend she's the bigger person. You've always been dramatic. I ordered black coffee. She ordered a $7 oat milk thing that came with edible glitter. The difference between us fit neatly into 2 cups. I'm not trying to start a fight, I said carefully. I just need boundaries. If you want the wedding at the estate, we can talk, but it won't be free. Her brows shot up. You're serious about charging me? I'm serious about protecting the property, I said. It costs thousands a month to maintain. I'm offering a 40% family discount, plus the same contract everyone else signs. What kind of contract? She asked warily. One that includes a security deposit, no permanent changes, and no access outside the scheduled setup and event days. She stared at me like I'd asked her to pay for oxygen. You can't be serious. I'm your sister. That's why I'm offering a discount, not a free pass. Her chair screeched as she stood. This is insane. That house should have been both of ours. I took a sip of coffee. Funny, you didn't say that when you got Grandpa's stocks in the vacation fund. That's different, she snapped. You can't put a price on family. I'm not. You are. For a moment, she just looked at me, jaw set, eyes flickering, like she was deciding whether to cry or lash out. Then she grabbed her purse. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but not today. When I got home, my phone was already buzzing. Group text, missed calls, my mother's name, my father's name, numbers I didn't recognize. The narrative had shifted. Emily's version. I was extorting her. I had lost sight of family values. I was profiting off her happiness. By dinner, I was apparently the villain of the Thomas family saga. Even Aunt Rachel, who once told me Emily's laugh reminded her of a smoke alarm that won't shut off, texted, Anne, maybe let her have the venue. It's one day. One day to them. But one broken wall, one ruined trellis, one antique table gone missing. That's forever in a house like this. That night, Noah came by with takeout and quiet eyes. I told him everything, pacing across the kitchen tiles I'd restored last winter. She's spinning it, I said. She's calling me greedy. You're not greedy, he said. You're responsible. I'm tired of being the responsible one, I whispered. They only remember me when they need something. Noah put down his drink. Then make them remember you for saying no. His calm was contagious. I sent one final text to Emily before bed. The offer stands. Family discount, contract, deposit. Let me know if you'd like to move forward. She didn't respond. 2 days later, my father called. His tone was almost gentle. That scared me more than anger ever could. Your mother and I have been thinking, he said. We'll cover half of Emily's venue fee if you reduce the price by half. It was the first reasonable thing I'd heard in weeks. That's fair, I said. It'll still cover maintenance costs. Great, he said. We'll tell Emily. For the first time, I exhaled. Maybe, just maybe, this would settle. Then the email arrived. A PDF contract from Emily's wedding planner. Cheerful font, pastel borders, subject line, finalized terms, the Thomas estate. I opened it and stared. Facility fee, 10% of agreed rate. Access, full property for 2 weeks before event. Alterations allowed, temporary redecoration, undefined. No security deposit. It was a fairy tale written by a con artist. I called my father. This isn't what we agreed on. He hesitated. Emily thought these terms might work better for everyone. Everyone except me. Dad, I said quietly, either we go with the original agreement or she finds another venue. He sighed the way people sigh when they realize the easy daughter isn't being easy anymore. You're so rigid, Anne. Just compromise. I did, several times. The call ended with that thick silence that follows disappointment. By the next morning, the family group chat was on fire. A dozen messages from cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Even Uncle Dan, who once sold counterfeit sunglasses at Thanksgiving, chimed in with a moral lecture. Then, out of nowhere, Cousin Thomas, the one with actual sense, replied to all. Anne's offering a massive discount on a booked-out venue. Most people would just say no. Maybe stop treating generosity like theft. Bless Thomas. His message didn't end the chaos, but it cracked the narrative. Emily went quiet online for 2 days. I let myself believe she'd finally cooled down. That hope died when Noah showed me something on his phone, a post from Sienna, his ex-girlfriend, who was apparently part of the same social circle as Emily's wedding planner. Can't wait to modernize that old wallpaper. had dream venue, #project of love. The photo attached showed the interior of my living room. I froze. Where did she get that picture? Noah frowned. That's from my Facebook, from when we hosted the anniversary dinner last year. I didn't think. It's fine, I said, though my chest burned. Just another person, assuming the house belongs to everyone. Foreshadowing, I realized later, has a way of arriving disguised as decor advice. That night, as the cicadas screamed outside, I double-checked every clause in my contracts, saved screenshots of messages, and backed up my emails to the cloud. I wasn't just protecting a property anymore. I was preparing for war. For 3 cautious weeks, nothing happened. No calls, no new contracts, no passive-aggressive emails signed, "Love, Mom." It almost felt normal again. Then Emily texted, "We'll stop by Tuesday for the site visit. The planner needs measurements." The word "stop by" had become a family euphemism for barge in and pretend you were invited. I replied, "Approved for the planner and 2 assistants only. No alterations. I'll be home." She sent a thumbs up emoji. I should have known better than to trust that tiny yellow liar. The site visit. Tuesday afternoon, 8 people showed up. 8. Emily, her planner, 2 photographers, a florist, a sound technician, and 2 men carrying what looked suspiciously like paint swatches and rulers. "This is not 2 assistants," I said flatly. Emily gave a breezy laugh. "They're just getting preliminary measurements." The planner, always the diplomat, added, "We won't touch anything, promise." I let them in but hovered like a ghost. Every squeak of the floorboards made my shoulders tighten. The men paced off the parlor, took photos, murmured about better lighting angles. Emily pointed at the rose garden visible through the window. "We'll put the ceremony arch there and maybe open up that trellis for a cleaner entrance." I looked her straight in the eye. "You will not remove the trellis." "Relax," she said. "It's practically falling apart." "It's original. Grandpa built it." "That explains a lot," she muttered, rolling her eyes. By sunset, they finally left. The house felt sullied, as if their chatter had left fingerprints on the air. The next morning, I stepped outside with my coffee and stopped dead. The trellis was gone, not taken apart for maintenance, not leaning for repaint. Gone, ripped clean from the soil. Where it had stood for half a century was a jagged scar of dirt, a few nails glittering like tiny bones, and beside it, pinned to a wooden stake, was a sketch labeled "Modern Entrance, version 2. I called Emily immediately. She answered on speaker, voice syrupy with denial. "Maybe one of the decor guys thought it was temporary," she said. "We can put it back after the wedding." "Emily, it's not a Lego set. That trellis is structural." "Oh, come on, Anne. It's just wood." "No," I said. "It's history." "You're being impossible," she snapped and hung up. The consultant. That afternoon, another call came, this one from a renovation consultant. "Hi, Ms. Thomas. I'm scheduled to remove the old wallpaper and update the paint colors in the main hall. Just confirming tomorrow's appointment?" My stomach turned. "You're calling about what?" "The bride, Emily, said you wanted a light refresh before the event." My voice went razor thin. "No renovations are permitted. None. If anyone steps onto this property tomorrow, I will call security." He stammered apologies. I could hear paper shuffling on the other end. "She already prepaid for supplies." "She can get her refund from you," I said, "because she's not getting it from me." When I hung up, I was shaking. My fingers ached from how hard I was gripping the phone. Noah came by that evening, found me pacing the dining room. "She's dismantling things one piece at a time," I told him. "The trellis, now the wallpaper. What's next? My roof tiles for souvenirs?" He rubbed his jaw, thinking. "You have her contract in writing, right?" "Yes." "Then it's time to use it." I stared at him. "You mean cancel?" "I mean enforce. You've given her every chance. If this were any other client, you'd have voided the agreement already." He was right, and yet it broke something in me to admit it. Emily wasn't just a client. She was the little girl who used to steal my paintbrushes and make me chase her through the orchard. But that girl was long gone. The breaking point. 2 days later, it happened. I came home from the market to find a moving truck in the driveway. 3 men were hauling my grandmother's antique dining table, the heart of the house, down the front steps. I ran. "Stop! Put that down!" One of them froze mid-step, startled. "Ma'am, we have a work order. The bride authorized removal to temporary storage." He handed me the paper. It had Emily's signature at the bottom, neat and smug. I could almost hear Grandpa's voice in my head. "That table's older than me, Annie girl. It's seen every holiday, every heartbreak." "Get it back inside," I said, my tone sharper than glass. The men hesitated. I raised my phone. You can either carry it back, or I can call the police and let them explain why you're stealing family property." They carried it back. Then I called Emily. She answered on the third ring, her voice a hiss. "What is your problem? We were just storing it until after the wedding." "That's theft, Emily." "Oh, stop being dramatic. It doesn't match our color scheme." "Your color scheme?" I repeated, disbelief flat and cold. "You don't have jurisdiction over this house." Her sigh was pure exasperation. "I should have known you'd ruin this. You've always been jealous that Grandpa liked me more." The words hit like a slap. For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe. "That's not true," I said quietly, "and you know it." "Well," she sneered, "it's what everyone thinks." Then she hung up. The decision. That was it. The last straw, the final fracture. I printed the contract, highlighted every clause she'd violated, and sent an official termination notice by email. Per Section 4B, any unauthorized alterations or removal of property void this agreement effective immediately. Deposit refunded in full. Then I transferred her money back and changed the gate code. Finally, I installed security cameras, one facing the driveway, one covering the garden. Not because I thought she'd come back, but because I finally accepted what she was capable of. That night, the house creaked softly in the wind, almost like it was nodding. For once, the quiet didn't feel empty. It felt like approval. I thought canceling the contract would end it. But in the Thomas family, endings are just invitations for new guilt trips. The silence lasted 2 weeks, long enough for me to almost believe peace had finally returned. Then one night, as the wind scraped against the shutters, my phone rang. The caller ID read unknown number. "Ann Thomas?" a man's voice asked. "Yes." "It's James." I froze. Emily's fiancé. We'd barely exchanged polite smiles at family dinners. "Can we meet for coffee?" he asked. His tone carried a heaviness that didn't sound like pre-wedding excitement. "There's something you should know." The warning. We met at a quiet bar instead. It was nearly empty, the kind of place where secrets like to breathe. James looked different, tired, hollow-eyed, like someone trying to stay polite while drowning. He toyed with the condensation on his glass. "Emily and your parents are planning to come to the estate on Saturday," he said finally. "They didn't want me to tell you." "For what?" I asked, though my stomach already knew. "Photos," he said. "They want wedding pictures in your garden, even though the ceremony's at the country club now." I blinked. "They're planning to trespass?" He nodded miserably. "They said it's family property and you can't stop them. I told them it's a bad idea." "And you're telling me because—" "Because it's wrong," he said, meeting my eyes. "The way they've treated you, the house, it's all wrong. I don't even recognize Emily anymore." The words hung there, bitter and honest. When we parted ways, he hesitated. "Anne, whatever happens Saturday, don't be there alone." The legal line. The next morning, I called my lawyer. We drafted a short, clean notice. To Emily Thomas and family. You do not have permission to enter or photograph on the Thomas estate property for any purpose. Any entry without authorization will constitute trespassing and will be reported to law enforcement. I sent it to Emily, my parents, and their planner, CCing my lawyer. Then I notified the local police of a possible trespass attempt, just in case. An hour later, my phone buzzed with my mother's name. "How could you do this?" she demanded. Her voice trembled, a mix of anger and tears. "Involving police against your own family?" "I'm protecting my property," I said evenly. "It's just photos, Anne. 1 hour in the garden. The garden your grandparents built for us." "The garden I restored after everyone else let it die," I said quietly. "Your grandfather would be heartbroken." "Grandpa would be proud that I'm honoring his will," I interrupted. "You're not coming here, any of you." There was a pause, then her voice cracked like ice. "You're dead to me, Anne." The line went dead. I sat at the table, staring at the phone, at the reflection of the window, the lake beyond it, black and still as silence, dead to her. I whispered into the emptiness, "Then let me live for once." The day that should have been her wedding. Saturday arrived pale and windless, the kind of morning where everything feels like it's waiting for someone to make the first mistake. I wasn't alone. Noah came over early, steady as always. We made coffee, pulled up the new security feeds, and watched the driveway from my laptop. Noon came. Nothing. 1 p.m. Nothing. Then, at 1:17 movement, a convoy of cars stopped just outside the gate, a white limo, a few sedans, and, of course, my parents' SUV. "Here we go," Noah murmured. The cameras caught it clearly. Emily in her wedding gown, standing at the locked gates, veil snapping in the wind. My parents hovered behind her, red-faced and flustered. A photographer lifted his camera, trying to angle the lens through the iron bars. They never stepped onto the property. They just posed, smiling stiffly in front of the closed gates, with my home glimmering faintly behind them like a forbidden kingdom. After a few shots, they climbed back into their cars and left. Noah leaned back, half amused, half exhausted. Petty to the end. Petty, I agreed softly, but at least legal. The meltdown. Later that night, my cousin Thomas called. He'd been at the wedding. "You won't believe it," he said. "Emily showed up 2 hours late because she refused to leave your gate until she got the perfect shot." The ceremony started almost 3 hours behind schedule. "What happened?" I asked, bracing myself. She had a full meltdown at the country club, fired her wedding planner in front of everyone. Then at the reception, she gave this speech about family betrayal and jealousy. Half the guests left before dessert. I closed my eyes. "That sounds about right." "She's unraveling, Anne," he said gently. "You did the right thing. She needed someone to tell her no." The email. The next morning, I woke up to an email from James. "No trespassing occurred. Compromise solution achieved. For what it's worth, I tried to talk her out of even this. I'm sorry for everything." Attached were photos. Emily, my parents, and the wedding party, all posing at the closed gates. My family frozen outside the home they'd tried to claim. I stared at the images for a long time. They looked almost symbolic, like the house itself had drawn a line and said, "Enough." Noah came up behind me, hands on my shoulders. "You okay?" "I think so," I said. "They got what they wanted, sort of, and I got what I needed." "What's that?" "Proof that I can stand my ground without becoming them." The house creaked softly, as if agreeing. The calm after. That night, the wind carried music from somewhere far off, the faint echo of a wedding band at the country club. I stepped out onto the porch, breathing the cool air, looking at the gate in the distance. 6 weeks ago, that gate had been just an entryway. Now it was a boundary, and boundaries, I was learning, are sacred. The house glowed faintly behind me, its windows like patient eyes watching me grow a spine. "Hold," I whispered again, echoing that first day, and the house, solid and silent, did. 6 months after the wedding. That wasn't. The estate looks the same from the outside. Same ivy crawling over the porch rail, same stubborn roses daring the frost, but everything inside it, and inside me, has changed. For the first time in years, the house feels light again. Not quiet in that tense, waiting way, but calm, like it finally exhaled after decades of holding its breath. The family still doesn't visit, and I've stopped leaving the gate code under the welcome mat. The unexpected message. 2 months after the wedding, an email arrived from an unfamiliar address. James Whitaker. "Anne, I know this is unexpected, but I wanted to meet. I owe you an apology and some honesty." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to delete it, but something about his tone, humble, not performative, made me agree. We met at a small cafe by the lake, the same one where Emily and I had once fought over oat milk and morality. He looked lighter somehow, like someone who'd stepped out of a storm. "I'm sorry," he said, before I could even sit down, "for staying quiet, for not standing up to her. You were right about everything." I didn't say anything, just listened. "Emily and I are separating," he admitted. "It's been building for months, but the wedding drama, it opened my eyes. She hasn't taken responsibility for any of it. She still says you ruined everything." I felt a sad kind of relief. "I didn't want that for you," I said softly. "I know," he said, "but it made me realize something. You didn't ruin her wedding. You saved yourself." He told me about the honeymoon arguments, the shouting, the denial, the cold silence that stretched from airports to hotel rooms. When they got home, he'd suggested counseling. She refused. "She still talks about that house like it's hers," he said. "It's not the walls she misses, it's control." We sat there for nearly 3 hours, talking about history, family, and the strange inheritance of resentment. Somewhere between the shechan and third cup of coffee, the heaviness lifted. We weren't enemies anymore. We were just two people who'd survived the same storm from different sides. Before he left, he said quietly, "You were right to protect that house. It's the only honest place in your family story." A door half open. A month later, my father showed up at my gate, alone. He looked older, but softer. No rehearsed speech, no raised voice, just a quiet man with weathered hands twisting his cap. "Can we talk?" he asked. We sat in the garden, near the rebuilt trellis. I'd had it restored with the same kind of cedar Grandpa used, stained with the same honey tone. "I handled things wrong," my father said finally. "Your mother and I both did. We shouldn't have ganged up on you. We just thought, well, Emily always needed more managing, and you never did. We took advantage of that." It wasn't a full apology, but it was the closest he'd ever come. I'm not angry anymore, I said. Just done being the dependable one by default. He nodded, eyes glistening. That's fair. Before he left, he looked up at the trellis and smiled faintly. Your grandfather built that the summer before you were born. I'd forgotten how beautiful it was. Mother's silence. It took 2 more months before my mother called. Her voice was cautious, brittle around the edges. I've been thinking about your grandparents, she said. They'd be proud of what you've done with the house. I wanted to believe she meant it. I chose to. She never said sorry. She didn't need to. Her tone carried the apology her pride couldn't form. Sometimes healing doesn't sound like forgiveness. Sometimes it just sounds like a mother saying your name without venom. The house thrives. The estate has become more than just home. It's a business that breathes on its own now. The preservation grant came through, and the stained glass windows, once faded and cracked, now glow like captured dawn. Bookings have doubled. I've hired staff, landscapers, even a part-time historian who researches the estate's original architecture for visiting guests. Every wedding, every piano recital, every laughter-filled evening feels like a new heartbeat for the house. Cousin Thomas brings his kids by on weekends. They chase each other through the garden, laughing under the same sky where Emily once stood fuming in a white gown. He always tells them, Aunt Anne saved this place. I never correct him. The gathering. Last month, I hosted a small gathering for family, the ones who'd stayed kind during the chaos. My father came. My mother, surprisingly, too. She lingered near the trellis, fingertips brushing the cedar. It still smells like him, she whispered, meaning Grandpa. Then she looked at me. You were right to keep it standing. No one mentioned Emily. No one had to. As dusk fell, the garden lights blinked on, tiny halos dancing along the roses I'd once replanted from dead soil. For the first time in years, the laughter around that table didn't carry guilt. James came too, not as family, but as a friend. He's been helping with small restoration projects, sanding window frames, repairing the porch steps. He said it helps him think. He introduced me to his sister Lauren, an interior designer who specializes in preserving historic homes. She's been advising me on gentle restoration techniques. No harsh paints, no modern shortcuts. The irony isn't lost on me that the man Emily once used to invade my space is now helping me rebuild it with respect. When he left that night, he looked back at the house glowing in the dark. Funny, he said. I thought this place tore a family apart, but maybe it's stitching the right parts back together. The letter I'll never send. Sometimes I think about writing to Emily. Not to rehash, not to accuse, just to tell her the truth. That the house is still here, that the trellis stands again, that I'm not angry anymore, just sad that she still lives in a world where love means ownership. But I never send it. Some stories are better left unfinished until the other person is ready to read them. Final reflection. Tonight, I'm sitting in the study Grandpa built, the same room where he signed the will that changed everything. The lamp beside me hums softly, its light flickering through restored glass. I glance toward the window, where the reflection of the garden trembles in the moonlight, and I realize something. This estate isn't just mine. It's my inheritance, my anchor, my boundary, and my redemption. Grandpa once told me, a house is only as strong as the person who refuses to let it rot. He wasn't just talking about beams and nails, he was talking about family, about self-respect, about knowing when to hold. The old house stands firm, weathering storms, both literal and familial, and I stand with it, because sometimes survival doesn't look like victory. Sometimes it just looks like a woman standing in her garden, watching the light come through the glass, knowing she finally did what was right, for her home, her legacy, and herself.